There ain't no future unless we build it now. There ain't no future unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
Welcome once again. I am Brother Terrence from the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party.
And I'm Mama D from the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is what, Terrence, for us?
Africa Must Unite, podcast number 18.
All right. Our ideology is Nkrumaism. That's going to be a good discussion, isn't it?
Absolutely.
As always, we're going to start with calendar dates, important dates in the month of June. And we'll start with June 2nd. Paul Cuffey, or some people say Kofi, because they spell his name Cuffee in English, but it might be Kofi, right?
Yes.
First African to send a group of diasporans to Africa, sailed to Sierra Leone on an exploratory mission in 1811. And on June 4th, Modibo Keita, progressive first president of Mali, born in 1915 and good friend of Kwame Nkrumah. On the 10th, Marcus Garvey, Pan-African organizer of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, died in England in 1940. And we have our Garvey Fest here celebrating him, don't we?
Yes.
And we changed it, not just celebrating Marcus Garvey, but all the Garveys.
Yeah,
Amy Jacques,
Amy Ashwood,
Ooh.
And the contributions of the UNIA all together.
Yes, indeed. And on the 12th, the Convention People's Party, CPP, led by Kwame Nkrumah, was founded in 1949. On the 13th, Walter Rodney, Pan-African scholar and revolutionary activist, was murdered by neo-colonialist running dogs in 1980. On the 14th, Che Guevara, revolutionary socialist born in Argentina in 1928, made a great contribution, didn't he? Jacques Dessalines declared Emperor of Haiti in 1804 on the 16th of June. On the 17th of June, Lamine Zhonghai, young pioneer, former member of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and member of the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, died in 2018. That was a great loss, wasn't it? And then on the 18th of June, someone close to our hearts, right, Terrence?
Yes, absolutely.
Ahmed Fletcher Mbalia, African revolutionary and member of the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, was born on this day in 1941. On the 19th, of course, is Juneteenth Day, when African slaves in Texas first hear that slavery is abolished in 1865 instead of in January. Isn't that sad? On the 23rd of June, the Black Star Line was organized by the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, under the leadership of both Amy Ashwood and Marcus Garvey in 1919. And on the 25th of June, the Front for the Liberation of Mozambique, FRELIMO, was founded in 1962. On this same date, Mozambique wrestled political independence from the brutal, vicious Portuguese colonialists in 1975. Vicious. Then on the 26th, South African Freedom Day is declared in 1955, a memorial to the determination of the South African Azanian people to carry on the struggle against racism, exploitation, and oppression. On the 29th of June, another very important figure to all of us, Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, born in Trinidad in 1941. And on the 30th is Congo Independence Day that was declared in 1960. So these are some of the important dates in the month of June.
Yeah, June is a very strong month, as you can see, people. Quickly, I want to apologize if you hear any sniffling or coughing in the background. The summer colds here in Wisconsin, so I'll try to keep it down, people. But like we mentioned earlier, for podcast 18, this number 18, our ideology is Nkrumaism. That's the theme. And I want to read you, again, our calendar sub-theme. An ideology is a body of ideas, i.e. theory, that reflects the economic, political, social, and moral needs and aspirations of a people. Ahmed Sekou Touré describes it best when he says, theory, quote, theory is the light which illuminates the road, end quote. Named after Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the foremost proponent of the African Revolution, Nkrumaism is the ideology for African people. It is the light that guides us toward our objective of Pan-Africanism, a liberated socialist Africa, and onward towards socialism and worldwide communism. Why is Nkrumah the best ideology for African people? Let's give you some reasons here. A, it unites all African people by teaching us the commonality of our history, culture, current reality, and best future prospects. B, Nkrumaism gives us a philosophy, a worldview that takes into account our history and culture. C, Nkrumaism focuses our energy towards collective action, i.e. organization, in the pursuit of Pan-Africanism. D, Nkrumaism shows us how to achieve, tactically, a united socialist motherland. E, Nkrumaism teaches us to extract the positive from our three experiences, Islamic, Euro-Christian, and traditional African, and unite the positive to create a new African reality, a new Africa free from exploitation. Teaches us to embrace our principles of humanism, collectivism, and egalitarianism in order to sustain and nurture ourselves until and after we are truly liberated. And finally, F, Nkrumaism guides us ultimately toward a new African personality. We also have a quote from Kwame Nkrumah. He says, and this quote comes from Nkrumaism, he says, quote, a new harmony needs to be forged, a harmony that will allow the combined presence of traditional Africa, Islamic Africa, and Euro-Christian Africa, so that this presence in time with original humanist principles underline African society. A new emergent ideology is therefore required, end quote.
And that new ideology, people after Nkrumah and even toward the tail end of his life in 1972, just before then, began to call this ideology Nkrumaism. We need to talk about it because we know, Terrence, that Pan-Africanism is our objective. It's a unified, what we're calling a unified socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of all African people, no matter where they happen to be born or to live in the world. We know that because we know that land equals wealth, equals power to trade on all spheres of the world and in all realities, and that wealth gives us respect and liberation. So we know we have to have a unified socialist Africa. However, to achieve Pan-Africanism, we must be guided by an ideology. How are we going to reach that? How are we going to achieve Pan-Africanism without having a system of beliefs that guides us toward our objectives, so that we know what we're going to do now, what we're going to do next year, what we're going to do 5 years from now?
Yes. And like you saying, ideology is a system of beliefs that guides us toward our objective. So you must understand that ideology organizes us. It guides us toward a collective action in the common pursuit of an objective. In Nkrumaism, Nkrumah writes, what is called for as a first step is a body of connected thought which will determine the general nature of our action in unifying the society which we have inherited. This unification to take account at all times of the elevated ideals underlying the traditional African society. Another point he makes in Nkrumaism is that ideology aims at uniting the actions of millions towards specific and definite goals. End quote. As Samora Michelle writes, ideology is like a light on a dark night showing the way to follow. He also states that an ideology gives a people an overall view of their interests and provides their appropriate strategy and tactics for the struggle to win and exercise power. End quote. Samora Michelle there.
And, we in the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party are convinced that Nkrumaism is the ideology for African people. Based on our history, culture, and current reality, it shows our people the path to liberation and provides the necessary directions for how to reach our objective and the way that our new Union of African Socialist States should be built. It is our map, our blueprint for liberation. And sometimes, Terrence, people ask, like we mentioned earlier, why the name Nkrumaism? And as you mentioned in your intro piece, you said that he's the foremost proponent of the African Revolution. And we believe, and many other revolutionary Pan-African organizations believe, that Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, did for Africa and Africans what Marx and Lenin did for Europe and Europeans, and what Mao Zedong did for China and the Chinese people. He knew that the development of an ideology for African people was essential if the African Revolution had any chance of success. As Nkrumah saw it, a monolithic ideological unity would give direction to the energies of African people and guide Africans toward collective action and pursuit of Pan-Africanism. All that means is that we got to be on the same page. Mm-hmm. The term is a big one, isn't it? Monolithic ideological unity. But we have to be in agreement that this is the path we need to take in order to get to liberation. And that's what a theory is, or an ideology is just, the directions toward liberation. And that's what Nkrumaism does. So what we say is, revolutionary Pan-Africanists, we have to remember, though, that an ideology is not a closed system. It's not a finished doctrine with every point clearly defined, Terrence. Nkrumaism, as all ideologies are, is a dynamic system. It's constantly undergoing revision based on the material reality of his people. It has some principles that stay unchanging. Mm-hmm. But the current reality, if we just think about during Nkrumah's time in 1972 and the day 2019, the reality for African people is different. We still exploited and oppressed, but where are we? Where's our mentality and just in our understanding of we are African and all of those things? So ideology has to be dynamic. All that means is flexible. You have to allow your revolutionaries to continue to develop the line or the theory, the ideology, so that it can lead our people from this point on. See, this is 2019. What worked in 1972, where people were, is not going to work now in 2019. So our job as revolutionaries is to say, 2019, here's where our people are. Scientifically assess the reality and say, here is where we are. Now, what's step one that's going to take us toward Pan-Africanism? And that's what ideology does. And our role as revolutionary Pan-Africanists is to constantly undergo or take our ideology and have it undergo revision based on the material reality of its people. And, since Nkrumaism is a dynamic ideology, a map, a blueprint that shows the path toward liberation, we are called upon to assess this reality and to deal with define today's best strategy and tactics, and to help guide our people step by step toward permanent liberation. And that's just kind of a wrap up of what we were talking about. And we are bringing today a guest on board who is thoroughly aware of and knowledgeable of our ideology and Nkrumaism. And he's not only a comrade, a brother in struggle, but also a scholar who has written extensively and profoundly on our ideology and Nkrumaism. And I just want to mention some of his early works. First, was very impressive, Terrence, is that his dissertation was entitled "The Relationship Between Nkrumaism and 20th Century Leftist Thought in the African World." And it was submitted to the Graduate School of the University of Notre Dame in 1981. And then he wrote an article, Marcus Garvey and Kwame Nkrumah, A Case of Ideological Assimilation, Advancement, and Refinement, in the Western Journal of Black Studies, Volume 7, Number 2, Summer 1983.
Yes.
And look at this one, Nkrumaism as an ideological embodiment of leftist thought within the African world, in the Journal of Black Studies, Volume 15, Number 1, September 1984. And I'm just talking about some of the early works. I just can't go on and on. But number 4, this book called Pan-Africanism, an Annotated Bibliography, the McGill Bibliography, Salem Press in 1992. And then look at what he's done for sisters of ours in this work called Unsung Heroines of Pan-Africanism, a preliminary assessment in Abafazi, the Simmons College Review of Women of African Descent, Volume 3, Number 1, Fall of 1992. And another work, Pan-Africanism and Zionism. That's a powerful book.
Yes.
It's Pan-Africanism and Zionism, Political Movements in Polarity, published by Research Associates and Frontline Distribution International Incorporated in 1995. These are just some of his works, his early works. In terms, I always tell people the story of when I first heard him. We had invited him to speak at a program. And, he was so thoroughly knowledgeable of Nkrumaism, Pan-Africanism. Mm-hmm. And I always say that his speech was one of the clearest, most concise, and correct on our political line. It made that I had ever heard. And it greatly influenced me, made a big impression on me just in terms of his presentation. And it wasn't long, it was short, it was right to the point, and it was clear. And that's what we all try to aim for in order to organize our people. We can't talk with these big words. We got to be straightforward and clear. So we are going to bring our brother to the table very soon. Hey there.
Hello. How are you, Mama D?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
How's it going, Brother Tokes?
I'm doing fine. How are you also, my brother?
Oh man, I'm well. I'm dreaming of the day of returning again. I was just thinking about the trip this morning. So absolutely.
Right? I remember how much you enjoyed yourself.
Oh,
I do remember that.
Yes.
Well, you're always welcome.
All right. So we're gonna get right into it, bro. We gave you this long, great introduction, and I know we want to ask you about ideology and its importance, but can you tell us about your political organization and affiliations real quick?
Oh, sure. I'm currently with the All African People's Revolutionary Party. It's a party, based in Africa, but with chapters in different parts of the African world. And our objective is Pan-Africanism, one united socialist Africa, and the ideology is Nkrumaism, Touréism.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you could continue. We wanted to say, how is ideology important? How do you think? Right. Why do you think it's important?
Right. Well, it's very important because it gives us direction. It tells us where we are, gives us a sense of history, what we've faced and what we've been through, and also charts a path towards the future. In other words, if we don't know where we've been, we can end up making the same mistakes we've made in the past. So ideology is important because, again, it provides the map to enable us to move forward as a people. It also gives us a sense of identity, who we are and who we are not. It ultimately is an expression of the people's struggle to advance. It's an expression of the people's struggle to advance and of their culture and history. And so people without ideology is like a people without any understanding of where they've been, where they are, or where they're going. It's critical to our development as a people.
Absolutely.
And I like that point you made, too, because we often don't hear it. And that is, ideology helps define who you are and also tells you who you're not, just in case you're confused.
That's
you know what I mean? That's an important point.
Right. It really is. It's very important. And so, ideology, when it comes from the people, it identifies them and it expresses their culture. And it's always a product of a space-time culture. Yeah. I guess the last point I say on it is that it also should be very dynamic, something that's not static. It should be like the people, always changing and evolving to a higher level. So it's critical in our
and that's something we were just talking about, and the role of people like us in revolutionary organization to make it clear that ideology is dynamic. That the reality of our people in 2019 is not the same as in 1960 or 1972.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Now we know, brother. You wrote extensively on Kwame Nkrumah.
He didn't hear me mention all your. We were talking about all your works.
So our next question is why?
Is that right?
Why is Nkrumaism for African people?
Right. Well, Nkrumaism is important because, again, it reflects the struggles of our people as embodied in so many of our great Pan-Africanist leaders. Nkrumaism is not just the idea of one person, not at all. It's a digestion, assimilation, a refinement, and enhancement of the struggles and of the ideological contributions of radical Pan-Africanists before and during Nkrumah's lifetime. In fact, Nkrumah was able to do what Karl Marx did with Marx.
Absolutely.
Studying Marxism is actually assimilation, digestion, but also refinement, enhancement of German classical philosophy, French utopian socialism, British political economy. That's what Marxism is. He kind of turned people on top of their head. He just did all kind of things. And so Nkrumah did much the same thing, but with the experiences of African people. So in Nkrumah, you can see the best of Malcolm, the best of Du Bois and Padmore and C.L.R. James and so many other great Pan-Africanist figures.
Yes.
And so that's why Nkrumah is important, because it reflects us.
Yeah. I believe our listeners are going to think you had our script because everything you said is what we.
Sorry.
No. You add another dimension to it. We hadn't talked about the. Nkrumaism. We mentioned your work, but we didn't talk about Nkrumaism as an advancement of some of these early ideologies, and that's a totally important point.
And it also shows
for example,
Go ahead.
For example, Du Bois and Padmore talked about Black Africa. If you look at their writings, when Nkrumah turned around and said, "No, we're not talking about just sub-Saharan Africa. We're talking about the whole of Africa." So that's a way of advancing thought, and you see that throughout Nkrumah's writings. It's an enhancement of what others were writing about.
Absolutely, and it also shows the alignment between Pan-African revolutionary socialist organizations like yours, like ours. So you hammering home these points is absolutely critical.
And the other, just quickly, important thing is that you can see how influential the Garvey position, I really say the Universal Negro Improvement Association's position was for Nkrumah, and he took that and appreciated it, but he made clear the kind of economic system we want in our unified Africa.
That's right.
Yep. In our final,
that's right. That's a good example. It's actually an example.
Yes, our final question to you, brothers: what is the importance of a monolithic ideological unity?
Right. Well, it's important because it allows us to adhere to certain truths. There's universal, there's relative and absolute truths, and if we don't share an understanding and an assumption of certain basic truths, then any belief, any opinion, anything matters. And so this is important. There's certain basic truths we all have to agree on. We have to assume to be true before we can move forward. And monolithic ideology will ensure that. So, for example, the masses are the makers of history. We have to all believe that. We have to all understand that, and not look for some great leader to come and save us. That the wealth, all the wealth belongs to the people. No exception. The wealth belongs to the people. It must be used for the people, for their benefit. And that no class should live off of another class. These are the basic truths, and a monolithic ideology will allow us to assume those basic truths. It will ensure that we're self-reliant in our thinking, that nobody else should be thinking for us, and it will ensure common action. This is our problem now. Our action is engaged in efforts to support other people's, other struggles, other objectives, but monolithic ideological unity will ensure that we're all on the same page and adhering to the same basic truths.
And as you say, we can't reach our goal. The only goal is going to bring about permanent liberation for us worldwide as an African people, unless we have that kind of unity moving forth. Because we can't make an impact, a united impact, a powerful impact, unless we're on the same page, as you say.
Absolutely.
Right. And the structure of society, if we don't have the same, with your society be all divisive and divided, people be fighting, and you won't be able to move forward.
Yes. And brother, that's kind of where we at right now with this divisive society and the importance of this monolithic ideological unity. Brother Tokes, we thank you. Asante Sana.
We wish we can hold you longer, but you're far away. Look, you are at home on the motherland, and we're just so thankful that you could do this for us and let the people hear, that knowledge that you have about our ideology.
Well, I'm very thankful, also very grateful for the opportunity. Anytime, this is all what we need to be doing. As a people, helping each other and assisting each other in the struggle.
And Tokes, isn't it beautiful that our organizations can come together this way? That what's important for all of us is to, and as we talk about tactics, to build more unity between organizations with a similar goal and ideology. And APRP and PRSP, this is beautiful.
You're right. We need one umbrella to bring all of us under the same ideological roof so that we can move forward.
Very nice. Well, we thank you so much. Africa thanks you. Our people thank you, and we hope we can do this again at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take good care.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Yes. That was a great interview right there. Some powerful questions.
Very beautiful.
Mama D, we're on the subsequent months.
Okay, and in subsequent months, at times with the help of invited revolutionary guests like Dr. Michael Williams, who we call Totes, over on the motherland, we will discuss additional key elements of Pan-Africanism that are embraced by the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party and other revolutionary Pan-African organizations.
Yes. We want you all to join us next month when we discuss Our Philosophy is Philosophical Conscientism. Meanwhile, leave comments on our website, www.prsponline.org. You can like us on SoundCloud, visit us on YouTube, and like us on Facebook.
Yes, and remember, organization is the key. We just talked about how we got to be under the same old Dr. Williams. Toast talked about how we have to be under the same umbrella. So join us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, or some other revolutionary Pan-African socialist organization. Because we know, don't we, Terrence?
Yes.
That a union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
Proud of Nkrumah. We are the king of Africa, Lord God of mercy. This one is a special dedication to ones and ones who hail upon Nkrumah. Lord God of mercy. It's a last
Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we ever see you again? One minute, Nkrumah, boy. Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we ever see you again? Why we Nkrumah, boy? Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we ever see you again? Why we Nkrumah, boy? Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we ever see you again?
Alright. The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked up with the total liberation of the whole African continent. You voiced it as candorous as thunder and made your mark as the black president. Born some 100 years ago inside Nkrumaism, you taught us not to fool or carry water in a basket. You walked in the belly of the beast till your shoe sole dropped off, but you still hit the deadly nail into the slave master's casket. Kwame Nkrumah, you shouted, self-government now, when the rest of them still slumbered in the calcon of procrastination. Yet, imperialism, nepotism, pluralism, and nyafu dideism were never part of you as a man. Black like jets, Osayifu, Breu.
Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we ever see you again? 1 million Nkrumah, boy. Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we ever see you again?
Yes, you said it with no doubt that we prefer self-government with danger to servitude in tranquility. As a little child, born to Nyaniba and Kofi Ngoloma, and attending school in Hafasini, you were full of ability. Materialism you hated like a cankerworm, as honesty soon made you a celebrity. At Kulungugu, the bombs flew around the edge, perpetrated by the enemies of serenity. Oh, Jah bless, let no one curse. The saying goes with no element of inferiority. Ghana would one day queue to buy common salt. You said it when your government was toppled by some cacophonous drunk soldier man with no dignity. Nkuru.
Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. Oh yeah, Granny Kwame Nkrumah, you're the great man from Africa. Come liberate my brother from mental slavery. Yeah. Oh yeah, Granny Kwame Nkrumah, you're the great man from Africa. Come liberate my brother from mental slavery. Say me can deny your inspiration for the black nation. No need to fight, we should unite for the future generation. Oh yeah, Kwame Nkrumah, oh Kwame Nkrumah, oh Kwame Nkrumah, oh Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, oh yeah.
Nkrumah, do re mi fa sol la ti do. Musical soul first echo from the hearts of the Ramblers band. A musical leader whose love for black dignity would always be true and remain like the footsteps in the sand. Wake up, wake up, wake up the spirit of Africa and uphold the name of a great son of the land. Nkrumah, you love Africa so much so that you never looted any booty from the motherland. Hail Nkrumah, Osajifo, Nkrumah. Hail the king, direct descendant of the Nzimaland. It is time to pacify the spirits of Nkrumah.